It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us is Marge Steinhage Fenelon to talk about a 9-stop pilgrimage that you can do across the United States, a Marian Shrine Novena. Thanks for being here, Marge.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
What is the furthest that you've ever traveled on a pilgrimage?
Are you talking about like whole lifetime?
Yeah.
Like anywhere?
Specifically for a religious purpose, you went there for a pilgrimage. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, then I have to say that the farthest away would have been Germany.
Okay.
Germany, I went there for the dedication of a new Marian shrine for the apostolic movement of Schoenstatt. And so that was a trip to go and attend that. But
I've been there for a retreat.
Have you really?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
And you have the image of the Blessed Mother in your book from there.
I do.
Yeah. We have it hanging up on our wall.
Yes. You do? Wait a minute.
Not the original.
She's on my wall.
A print of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I'm glad you like her so much.
We've got a connection here.
Yes, we do. That's fantastic.
So you have 2 books now that are subtitled A Living Novena, which I feel is something that we don't ever talk about. Maybe, I don't know if you invented this or if this is something that I just haven't heard of before. The first one was about Our Lady Undoer of Knots, and now this one is using shrines in the United States. Can you talk about what A Living Novena is?
Gladly. It's something I made up, which is why, so don't feel bad if you,
okay, good.
if you didn't know what it was. You shouldn't have to. But it came out of the desire to turn my travels into a devotional. And so basically, a living novena means it's the books in the chapters, so that Our Lady Undoer of Knots and My Queen, My Mother, each day of the novena, so each chapter, we visit a different site. So for the first, Our Lady Undoer of Knots, it was the Holy Land. So each day of that novena, we visit one of the Holy Land places. With My Queen, My Mother, it's a different Marian pilgrimage site in the United States. But it's more than just visiting or naming the place. But I tried very hard to recreate the experience and the place for the reader, so that when the reader reads that chapter, he or she can feel like they're really there. And I'm told it works pretty well. At least my readers are writing back to me saying, wow, I really felt like, and some of them were there, read about places they'd been to already. Some were reading for the first time, but they said, really, I really felt like I was there. I could picture what you were talking about. And that was the whole idea, so that we're living the novena in a sense. We're traveling to these places and not only praying together, but meditating together and taking in the whole experience and history of the place.
Yeah. And it is really helpful to give you that viewpoint of these different locations. And I think maybe we should back up a little bit, because you do such a good job in the book of, you have like a primer basically on what a pilgrimage is. Can you explain what a pilgrimage is?
Yes, definitely. It's not a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make very clear, because people, when I was setting out on my trip, say, oh, you're going to have so much fun. It's like, no, that's not quite the point. What is it? I mean, because you do have some fun on a pilgrimage, but
sure.
It's a sacred journey. It's when we go on pilgrimage, we are voluntarily exiling ourselves. It's a form of exile. And what I mean by that is that we are going into the desert of our hearts and searching for God. So on a physical level, it's looking for separation from your normal life. Now, I know we can do that when we do a holy hour, and even, if we can put the daily life out of our minds when we attend Holy Mass. But when you're on a pilgrimage, you're journeying and searching, and you're going to a new destination physically, which incorporates all of the senses, every part of you. And there also should be some aspect of hardship. Not that we're putting on, burlap bags and, beating ourselves, not like that, but that it should cost you something in terms of some inconvenience or the simplicity of the life or the difficulty of the journey.
Mm-hmm. And how did you choose the 9 places? Because there's tons of Marian shrines across the United States. How did you choose the 9 to put in your book for the Novena?
Oh, that was the hardest part. That was awful. My poor editor.
It was awful.
Oh, my, every few days I'd be like, wait, hang on. A new list. And finally they said, you know what, Marge, you just got to stop this and get this book. I'm like, okay, I'm done. This will be the last one, I promise. How did I choose? I was looking for, first of all, Marian pilgrimage sites that were lesser known. I didn't want to hit the top 5, the ones that everybody knew about. I wanted ones that people would scratch their heads and go, wow, I never knew that was there. Mm-hmm. Second of all, of course, the deep attachment to our Blessed Mother, of course, because it's a Marian book. It's my queen, my mother. And then I wanted sites that had specific Catholic and also United States historical value, because we have a rich Catholic heritage in this country that hardly anybody knows about. We don't know or we've forgotten. And I wanted to take people, it's kind of a history book in the sense that I really dug to find out that these places that were linked to our United States history. And we, in our minds, we think these are 2 separate things. We study our history book in school, and then we hear the scriptures and we talk about Catholicism at Mass, and we think it's not separate at all. There's a lot of Catholic woven into the American history.
And so what was your process then of visiting these 9 different locations?
It took me 3 years. I would contact the shrine, the entity. So if it was a director, whoever was the administrator of the shrine, and I would say, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, and this is what I'd like to do with your shrine. I'd like to come visit. And they all were very accommodating, and I would schedule my trip and let them know ahead of time, of course. I funded it all on my own, but I'm so glad I did it, because then I had it more in my control when I would travel and how. In any case, when I would go there, then I would ask, if possible, could I speak with some of the locals? Could I speak with, if a lot of them have a shrine historian or someone who's been in charge in some way of keeping the history of that pilgrimage site. And so I would interview them. And then the most important part would be to spend hours just being there. And I notebook after notebook where I would just, kind of that stream of thought kind of writing, where whatever comes to my mind and heart is what I would write down. And then afterward, for the sake of the book, then of course I would make sense of it and turn it into a chapter.
We're talking with Marge Steinhage Fenelon, and the book is My Queen, My Mother, A Living Novena, a Marian Pilgrimage Across America. And out of the 9 places, which, like you said, these are probably unfamiliar to most people, at least a good chunk of them, which one was your favorite?
Wow. It's not a cop-out, Kyle, but they all were for different reasons. Because what fascinated me about this project is that for as many places as I went to visit our Blessed Mother, and even times when I made a side trip and I ended up going to 2 places where she bore the same title, they're all completely unique. Absolutely unique. She's working in a different way with a different charism in each of these places. I think of the place I was most surprised, so maybe not favorite, but where I was most surprised was Our Lady of Prompt Succor in New Orleans, Louisiana. So succor is French for quick help, Our Lady of Quick Help in New Orleans. And there I discovered that there's a tie to Andrew Jackson and the Battle of New Orleans. It blew my mind, because I didn't even see it on their website. A lot of these places, I always looked at the website just to kind of see what was there. And basically, very quickly, is the Battle of New Orleans. The Americans were against the British with impossible odds. The Americans didn't stand a chance, humanly speaking, of winning that battle, but that was a definitive battle in that entire war. Andrew Jackson asked for the prayers of the Ursuline nuns, whose convent was right there in New Orleans. they did indeed. In fact, many people rushed to the convent to harbor there during the battle because they were afraid, of course, for protection. They prayed, and within 20 minutes, the battle was won for the Americans. And Andrew Jackson, afterward, even though he was not a believer, he didn't believe in God. He was not a believer whatsoever. He told the nuns directly, the Ursuline nuns, there had to have been some kind of divine intervention for that battle to have been won. He said certainly there was, and he even wrote a letter to that effect. And after the battle, he and his top commanders went, and they had celebration dinner with the Ursuline nuns at the convent. And that just blows my mind, because we've read, how many times have we read about the War of 1812, the Battle of New Orleans, and never attributed it to any kind of grace or intervention of the Blessed Mother. And there it was, directly related to Our Lady Prompt Succor.
Mm-hmm. So, of these 9, is there a specific order that you would suggest that somebody goes and visits these, or is the order of them in the book in any kind of specific layout?
The layout in the book is fairly chronological, to the best as I could, because some of the things were happening at the same time. So that's the way I chose to do it for the sake of the book. But there is no order in terms of the reader. Start farthest from you, start closest to you, and look for places along the way that you may not have heard of before. That happened to me a lot in making these trips. I was setting out for one shrine and ended up hearing about another as I was traveling. But there's no particular order whatsoever. It's not that one chapter builds on the other, so you have to do it that way. It was just for the sake of some kind of order, I put it in chronologically.
And is the book more for people that are going to go visit these sites, or is it more to inform people that maybe can't visit them and to fill them in on what's going on there?
That's a great question. And I would say I originally intended thinking that, wow, you know what, people may never see these places, and I want to bring them to life for them. So I would say primarily that was the goal, was for folks who might never be able to go to these places. Because, it is coast to coast. It's New York to California and everywhere in between. So it's not terribly likely that someone could visit all of them, at least not in a short amount of time.
Sure.
But what I also wanted to do is to spark curiosity in people, that they read these and they think, wow, I can't make it to Santa Clara, California, but I'm here in Ohio, and there's got to be places around me. And indeed there are. I could do these books for years and years, because there are so many, and most of them are right in our own backyard, and we don't even realize that. Some of our parish churches have these great histories and are dedicated to the Blessed Mother. So that was twofold, spike the curiosity to visit the places I've listed, but then look for others that are perhaps closer to you or easier to reach. Maybe you're on vacation and you look at the city and find out there's something there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, check this out. It's My Queen, My Mother, A Living Novena. You can find it at Ave Maria Press, Amazon, and margefenelon.com. Thank you so much, Marge, for joining us today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.